Test, 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 test.
Southampton County School Board. We have all of our school board members present, so we do have a quorum. School board members, the agenda for tonight was in your packet. Is there a school board member who would like to add an item to the agenda? So could we have a motion then to approve the agenda as presented? Have a motion by Ms. Bradley, a second by Mr. Smith, and a discussion on the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The minutes of the May 10th, 2021 meeting were in your board packet. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? So we have a motion by Ms. Reynolds, a second by Mr. Smith, and a discussion on the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We have no recognitions for tonight, so we're down to the public comment period. The Southampton County School Board welcomes comments from members of our community. Persons wishing to address the board tonight should have signed up on the sheet that was in the lobby prior to the start of the meeting. The board asks that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes per person. So speakers cannot yield their time to another in order to increase a person's speaking time, so it's 3 minutes per person. We have a visible timer to help speakers keep track of their time. Speakers are asked to address the board, not the superintendent or other audience members. During the public comment period, board members will not answer questions or take actions. I will call up the speakers in the order in which they signed in for the public comment period. So the first speaker is Laura Matthews.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Laura Matthews. I am the interim president of Southampton Education Association. I have been at Southampton High School as a science teacher since 1988. I have had the pleasure of teaching many of your children, past and present. Right now, I am the longest serving teacher at Southampton High School. I literally am from the old school. A lot has changed in 33 years of teaching, but I would like to say the biggest has happened in the last 10 years. We have always had pride to say Southampton County Public Schools is a family. Maybe it's my age, but lately it doesn't feel like that anymore. It seems our parents, the school board, is not listening to its kids, the teachers. The present teacher turnover rate system-wide should begin telling the school board something, and it's not all about teacher pay. We fill out surveys and give suggestions, but in the end, it seems what is best for teachers and students seems to be ignored. Teachers always think about what is best for our students first, and then ourselves. For example, the high school and middle school, a majority voted to do a concurrent teaching, online and in person at the same time, but this was not done. We had what felt like umpteen changes in the schedule so far. What would have been the harm in trying one more that was less exhausting on teachers, enabling them to give them more planning, remediation, and more quality instruction to our students, especially for the middle school teachers who were teaching 12 times a day, Monday through Thursday, and 6 times on Fridays. It seems like sometimes more concern is given to elementary schedules versus the high school and middle school. All 3 levels have vast differences, so we should treat them as such. As long as the hours are the same, what is done within those hours should be up to our building administrators and leadership teams. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Melissa Howdy.
We were there. We were there when the Zoom conferences originated before school started stating their suggestions and concerns. We were there suggesting that 7 virtual classes load was too much for our students. We were there when you asked us to help hand out iPads and supplies to students for virtual learning in the middle of a pandemic. We were there when you asked us to take shifts instead of a regular teaching schedule to accommodate students and parents. Some of us even taught all 3 sessions, which allowed us to teach from home, but were slightly compensated, yet we sacrificed our family time to accommodate other families in need. While we, the teachers, have been through it all, we have not felt appreciated or valued. You say that you value us, but your actions do not show that you are sincere. While other surrounding counties like Greenville County to Suffolk City Public Schools were giving their teacher bonuses throughout the pandemic, we were not given anything. While they continued to teach virtually, we were sent back into the building to work. When they were showered with teacher appreciation tokens, we received absolutely nothing from our district leaders. While we are grateful for the opportunity to work for this district, we are not satisfied with some of the working conditions. So often we are given ultimatums and not choices. Our suggestions and recommendations are heard at the last minute and are not considered. I look around and I see so many of my dedicated coworkers retiring or resigning. Has anyone once asked why? Or do you look at us as being so easily replaceable? And yes, there may be a body to replace a teaching position, but that does not necessarily mean that that body will be nearly as effective, caring, and sincere as the one you lost. Teachers are the oil to the wheels of education. We are the frontline staff that contacts students and parents to make sure they are comfortable with Schoology and virtual learning. There is no one administrator that can run a school without effective teachers. When your effective teachers begin to drop by the wayside, it is time to take action. Even today, June the 14th at 8:02 a.m., teachers got a reminder from Principal Bell, quote, our failure list has decreased significantly with your efforts in aiding students with make-up assignments from the time we have all been inconvenienced through the COVID-19 era. The pandemic hit teachers twice as hard. We have sacrificed our homes to turn them into workplaces, just as parents have turned their homes into classrooms. A lot of teachers' incomes were reduced due to no after-school activities, but their household expenses have increased. We did what we had to do to make sure that the students were accommodated to the best of our ability. So I stand before you tonight to say, Even though the year has been incredibly tough for all of us, not only were we there, some of us are still here and we need a change. A change for the better where we can feel as if we truly are valued and make a difference in this school district.
The next speaker is we do ask people not to applaud or interrupt. Okay. Christina Parsons.
Good evening. My name is Christina Parsons. I'm a 7th grade math teacher at Southampton Middle School. I love my job. I adore my students, and I would do anything for them to succeed. However, this year I felt unappreciative and overworked, and I fear retaliation speaking tonight. Every day I'm finding out that more of my colleagues are leaving this school system and going to another one, or leaving this profession altogether. Those who decided to transfer to another district are receiving a significant higher salary. Those who are currently teaching in the surrounding districts have received multiple bonuses this year to help offset the financial burden and havoc this pandemic has caused. Instead of having sign-on bonuses for those coming to this district, what is your plan to retain the devoted teachers you currently have? We are often verbally attacked by parents. Such critics paint teachers as selfish and are unwilling to perform their jobs. In fact, we are going above and beyond our call of duty, instilling as much grace as possible. We have never worked so hard, but apparently that what we do is not enough. We are often blamed for students' poor performance. Instead of pointing the finger at us, what about student accountability? Many parents are justifiably at their wits' end. The funny thing is that the majority of us are parents too, and we feel their pain. Teacher appreciation was last month, and during that school board meeting, we weren't even recognized for our hard work during this trying year. Personally, I felt as if that was a slap in the face. I am fearful of retaliation. Since the acknowledgement of the Virginia Code violation, the climate at SNS has significantly changed. We currently teach 54 classes per week, which is in excess of 116%. The Virginia Code states that a teacher's standard loan shall be no more than 25 class periods per week. Middle school students should have no more than 5 class periods per day. Middle school students, and currently they have 7, which is excessive. Because of this excessiveness, I am unable to adequately reteach, remediate, and address my students' needs during the school day, and often find myself contacting parents and students after school hours. I am one of the last teachers to leave school. Our authority and decisions are often undermined. The countless surveys and advice asked for is ignored, and we are not treated fairly. We are often blindsided by information after it hits social media, and those decisions are often changed several times. That doesn't look good and makes me feel inadequate. Southampton County Public Schools has the best teachers in this state, and we deserve to be treated as such. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is April Griffith.
Good evening, my name is April Griffith, and I'm here as a Southampton Middle School teacher. I think we can all agree that this year has been a year like no other. With that being said, I'm here tonight because I think it is important that you hear just how difficult this year has been on your teachers. Although it has been a challenging year for us all, I can only speak from the perspective of a middle school teacher and what we have endured. As you well know, we spent the first half of the year teaching virtually, which meant we were teaching 32 classes a week. The third 9 weeks came with a change in schedule, as some students moved to in-person learning, while others chose to stay virtual. During the third 9 weeks, we taught 40 classes a week, with barely any time for planning, lunch, or bathroom breaks. Sure, we had Friday with no classes. However, those days were spent meeting one-on-one or in small groups with students, planning for the next week, grading all the work from the week, updating PowerSchool, answering messages from students and parents, contacting parents if need be, and the list could go on. Another change in schedule came again with the fourth 9 weeks and even less time for us to do the above-mentioned duties, as we started teaching 54 classes a week. This has consisted of 12 classes a day, Monday through Thursday, and 6 classes on Friday. Monday through Thursday were extended work days for us. Therefore, our compensation was that we could work from home on Fridays, and we could clock out at 11:30 after our virtual classes were over. This sounds great, but with even less time to do the duties mentioned above, most teachers continue to work full days on Fridays, and even time on the weekends as well, because there is just no time to get these things done with the numerous amount of classes that we have been teaching. I think it goes without saying your teachers are beyond exhausted, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Not to mention that the schedule changes that we have endured this year have all broken the Virginia Department of Education code, which I know you all are well aware of. Many of the issues that we have had this year could have been solved if only central office and the board would listen to the teachers. You trust us to teach the children of our county and to provide them with the best education possible, yet you do not trust us when it comes to solutions we try to provide. We are the ones in the trenches doing the work and know what's best for students, as well as what will work and what won't work. There have been multiple surveys that the central office has sent out this year asking for input from teachers, but unfortunately any advice, solutions, or information we provided in those surveys fell on deaf ears. It's no surprise that we have massive amounts of teachers leaving our county to go to other surrounding counties to teach. Teachers here are tired of feeling underappreciated, underpaid, and not valued as the professionals they are. It's like an abusive relationship. There's not but so much you can take before you have to walk away from it. It's disheartening to see other school systems around us giving their teachers and staff not one but multiple bonuses from the CARES Act money they received for everything they have had to endure this school year. What have we received? Nothing. Of all years, we didn't even get recognized by this board or our superintendent during Teacher Appreciation Week. Not even a simple note of thanks. Why are we not deserving of the same treatment other teachers in our school system are receiving? If things don't start to change and you don't start properly compensating your teachers and staff, you will continue to lose great educators, and they will not easily be replaced. Thank you.
The next speaker is Alicia Johnson.
Good evening. In March of 2020, COVID-19 shut down our buildings for the academic school year, but it did not stop the process of education. In September of this school year, I was there passing out iPads, holding classes virtually, spending hours after school and on weekends, planning and changing lessons to reach and engage more students. When the line between personal time and professional time became blurred by both parents and administrators from the top down, I was there. When the schedules changed and I found out at the same time as the parents did, I was there, albeit with little to no information because of lack of timely communication. When a family member who lives at my house and that I helped care for was placed on hospice care, I was still there in the school. When promises were made to parents before knowing the viability and sustainability of said options at the expense of teachers, I was there. When the school board voted to return us to in-person learning, even after losing a member of the board to COVID and before teachers were fully vaccinated, I was there. As I filled out paperwork, sent messages, and pled with building level admin and human resources to be allowed to teach virtually until my vaccine was fully effective in order to protect my dying family member, my requests went ignored, unanswered, and denied until parents of my students interceded on my behalf. I was there. When my family member's health declined and I reached out about FMLA, I was told I'd have to wait until the person responsible for that was back in office. My family member died before that said date, and no one bothered to check up on me or my request, and still I was there. When schedules changed yet again and I was forced to teach 54 classes a week, I was there. When Teacher Appreciation passed with no mention from the school board or superintendent, I was there and I remember. Even though Southampton County ranks at or near the bottom of the state for teacher salaries, I am still here. I am still here at the end of the year feeling bone weary, demoralized, and unappreciated by this very district. I am here for my colleagues who are scared to speak for fear of recrimination, and those who are leaving and will continue to leave in droves. I do it, and I am still here because of the children, but at what great cost to my mental and emotional well-being and the ability to be fully present for my family. This year, and the demands fully placed on the backs of teachers caused undue stress for my family, and my husband has said I could walk away because no job is worth the amount of heartache I have had for the pennies I am paid. But I am still here and I am still standing. I do it for the kids and they deserve better. The biggest learning loss they'll face is not how many minutes of math, science, reading, or history they had, but in the educators that will be lost if something doesn't change. A former student who is graduating this year messaged me and said, "Mrs. Johnston, I wanted to thank you for helping me grow into the person I am today. Your class was life-changing. Your smile has impacted all of our lives, and I miss seeing it every day. I am paid with their smiles and their joys and their successes, but that doesn't pay the bills and it doesn't bring back valuable time with my family. My message is simply, we must do better for the professionals that are in this district."
The next speaker is William H. Gillette.
Good evening. I'm here to address a subject that I don't know whether it's come up before, but 6 months ago I began to hear a lot about CRT. That stands for critical race theory, being debated among parents across the country as they were surprised to learn it was an ideology within their children's curriculum. Opposition gained traction among the parents who held a negative opinion of the subject being taught to their children from kindergarten through grade 12. The more I listened to the subject matter, the more concerned I became about my county and the children in this county. I don't have children in the system, but I do have a granddaughter that I hope will be coming through. Having researched the content and the genesis of CRT, I wanted to come and make a presentation to the board. I have no idea what you know about it, how much you've read about it, or even if you would care to hear. But I found that the root of CRT is Marxism. CRT is just one of the acronyms that could be used all across the scope of this ideology: Marxism, socialism, communism. There have been a great number of books and materials written on the subject and how Marxism got its beginning. It gains traction by picking a component of your culture, of our culture, and developing two sides, pitting people against each other or dividing them. Take race, for example. Adding critical in front and theory at the other end, you've got two sides. And it goes about developing an oppressor and then the oppressed. But as I said before, there are other acronyms that could be in place of CRT, and they've been used all across the country. In many countries, it has never proved effective. It has never worked. There have been many democracies that have been destroyed because of this ideology. Some of them are CLT, of which I went and talked to my Commonwealth attorney about. He knew nothing about it. That stands for critical legal theory. It is all about tearing down the legal system in this country, particularly from the Civil Rights Act of 1964 up until today, and doing away with it. Another one that you're very familiar with is CGT, or might I say CJT. That stands for critical God theory. And you hear no mention of God in these meetings. Nobody comes in here and prays in Jesus' name. And he is the only one that does not get an opportunity to provide solutions to the issues that we face in education today. Thank you very much.
So on behalf of the entire Southampton County School Board, I want to thank all the individuals who addressed the board tonight. The next item on the agenda will be matters from previous meetings. The School Board Selection Commission held a public hearing on Monday, June the 7th, 2021 at 11 a.m. for 2 school board members whose terms will expire June 30th, 2021, one from the Nuisance District and one from the at-large district. The selection will take place tomorrow, which is Tuesday, June the 15th, 2021 at 11 a.m. at the school board office complex. We have several action items for tonight. The first action item is the financial report and payment of bills. Dr. Shannon.
Mrs. Carr is on her way to the podium now to discuss the financial report and payment of bills. Ms. Carr.
Good evening, all. I would like to bring your attention to the preliminary expenditure report for the month of May. You'll notice our budget, our revised budget as of May 31st, is at $35,738,084, and the actual expenditures through May 31st total $26,188,963. This leaves us with a balance for the operating budget as of May 31st of $9,549,120. Please note that as of the date of this report, 73.28% has been expended from the operating budget. The main bill list has been attached to the agenda for the board's approval. Are there any questions tonight? Thank you.
Have a motion by Mr. Pope, second by Mr. Smith, to pay the bills as presented. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the revised fiscal year 2021-2022 school operating budget. Dr. Shannon?
Yes, Mrs. Carr is still at the podium, and she's going to make that presentation as well. Mrs. Carr.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Yes, you have presented with a revised budget tonight, and the Board of Supervisors actually approved the county's recommended budget on Tuesday, May the 25th, and this included local funding of $12,566,938, which will go to help fund the operation budget for Southampton County Schools of $33,652,178. As we reported last month, a decrease of $1,625,365 was required to balance the budget. The items that we retained in the budget included the 5% salary increase for all employees, one additional guidance counselor at Riverdale Elementary, and specialized student support positions as part of the new state initiative. And as I mentioned, the revised budget is presented tonight for your final approval.
Any school board member with a question about the revised school operating budget?
Just one. This, maybe I missed this before. The specialized student support position. What are they?
Yes, sir. They are, the state has put in a new initiative, and they have given us funding to hire positions, maybe at like a minimum of at least 8 to 9 positions, which would include school social workers, school psychologists, school nurses,
Okay.
and so forth. Okay.
Any other questions? We have a motion to approve. Have a motion by Ms. Reynolds. We have a second. Oh, second by Mr. Pope, I'm sorry. Motion by Ms. Reynolds, a second by Mr. Pope. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? I want to thank Ms. Carr, and of course the superintendent, as well as members of the budget committee for all the hard work they've done on this budget. The members of the school budget committee is Mr. Pope, the chairs of the committee, Ms. Vaughn, and Mr. Smith. So I certainly want to thank all of you for your hard work in bringing this budget to us. The next item on the agenda is the insurance carrier recommendation. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, tonight we have Mr. Will Melby and Mr. Sam Rosenthal with us. And Mr. Rosenthal has represented us for a number of years as a consultant regarding our insurance. And so tonight, he and Mr. Melby will make a presentation to the board.
Good evening, Dr. Goodwin, school board members. With the assistance of Mr. Rosenthal, we received proposals and presentations from both Versa and Vacor with the coverage and deductibles identical between the two. It was the supplemental programs that and services offered by Versa and the difference in premiums that were the driving factors. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Rosenthal up here to share his findings of when he conducted his comparative analysis. Mr. Rosenthal?
Good evening. Chairman, members of the school board. With the help of Will, which was fantastic, we updated specifications, we updated all the data, we sent it out to both Versler, which was the old Virginia Municipal League Insurance Company, and also Baycorp, our current carrier, we got proposals. The first thing that caught our eye is that there is a $21,000 difference between the two offers, with Versler being less. We also noticed coverage differences. There were very few, but there were some that were there because they feed off of each other. As soon as one does something, the other one follows. We have Versa includes a $25,000 limit for no-fault medical payments to students and others, and that is very good and will help us should someone get injured at no fault on our premises. We also have Versa providing a $1 million school board legal liability limit with no cap. That means every time you get sued, you have $1 million of coverage to protect you, without worrying that you're going to run out of limits. What is also interesting is that Versa's workers' compensation bus driver rate is $1.21 less than that of Versa, of Baycorp. And what really drives our workers' compensation costs are the bus driver's payroll. It saves us quite a bit of money. The school board will receive a $4,000 grant to be used for safety and loss control services as you wish. If Mr. Melby wishes to go to Hawaii for a conference, you have the money to do so. But that is a nice grant that you all will be receiving later on in this year if you decide to go with Versa. Versa offers the school board a number of interesting services mainly directed toward the human resources people. For example, OSHA regulations are reviewed. They will give you human resources consulting and answers to human resource questions. They are the online university with 190 subjects available for you to show bus drivers or staff, whoever you wish, regarding safety and loss control. There's a policy and procedures review with suggestions to meet those federal and state requirements that are up to date. Versa will give us a mock OSHA inspection. They will also help filling out the OSHA 300 form. There's a webinar on human resources and safety topics 2 times a month. And also, there's FMLA assistance from a lady known as Tina Stevens, who's one of the leaders of the area. So all in all, you get all that. And lastly, one of the nice things you get is free legal assistance from a law firm regarding human resources situations. They will answer your questions, you just give them a call, there's no charge for that. Versa also promised to visit with our human resources department, our finance department, our transportation department, and our IT department on a regular basis. We have not been receiving these services from Bayco in the past. In fact, when the nice people from Bayco showed up, it was the first time Will met them. We will get a property valuation on all buildings valued at $250,000 or more to make sure we have proper insurance on those buildings. So it's very, very interesting here that we have a really, really outstanding quote from Versa, $21,000 less. And we are suggesting that the school board consider going with Versa on July 1st renewal. Any questions?
Any questions from school board members? Thank you. We do need a motion to, Dr. Shannon, you have additional comments?
I make a motion.
We have a motion by Ms. Bradley, a second by Ms. Bunn, to approve Versa as the carrier for the 21-22 fiscal year, and Versa stands for the Virginia Risk Sharing Association. So William will become our carrier. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the gasoline, diesel, and heating oil contract extension. Dr. Shannon?
Yes, Mr. Milton.
I recommend that Southampton County Public Schools continues their agreement in partnership with Parker Oil Company in Franklin, utilizing our current agreement with Parker Oil and continue to operate within the figures below, which came from our agreement with them signed last year in July of 2020. We have this option to extend our contract as it was a part of our bid process last year. The reason for extending the contract at this time is that our rates are based upon our consumption. And if we would go back to bid this year with the reduction in utilization of fuels from the entire school year, we would probably see an increase. So we were going to take advantage of this extension with Parker. So again, I recommend that we continue our agreement with Parker Oil.
Any questions about the fuel? Do we have a motion to approve? Was that Ms. Bunn? We have a motion by Ms. Bunn, second. Mr. Scott? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And Parker Oil Company in Franklin we will continue our agreement with Parker Oil Company. Thank you, Mr. Milton. The next item on the agenda is academic amnesty. Dr. Shannon?
Yes, ma'am. We've talked about academic amnesty for a few board meetings now, and Mrs. Gillette is going to come to the board and share with you all some of the latest things that we've done regarding academic amnesty. Mrs. Gillette.
Good evening, Dr. Goodwin, Dr. Shannon, board members, and all present. Happy Monday. Please. I was just standing there. So I did want to share with you some updates with the academic amnesty. Our committee has met a few times, and we had discussed, as we shared with the board earlier, that we really wanted to look at students, why they weren't performing the way they needed to, whether it be their motivation, their lack of help at home, their struggle to learn, not being able to get on because of the internet. And so to assist these students who are struggling, whether it be virtual learning or coming back in person after having virtual learning, that have not lived up to their pre-pandemic potential, we want to give them every opportunity to do that. So we asked teachers to look at their grade books and identify students who needed remediation, who had zeros, who had incomplete grades. These students having low grades or students not performing based on their potential, we asked the teachers to reteach and remediate small groups, individual instruction, have a plan for these students to make up missing or incomplete work or assignments that they have not scored well on. We asked teachers to keep a daily log, which they were keeping a log anyway all year, of their contacts with parents and with students. And this will include the student's name, dates, times, the result of the meeting conversation, the end result, and if the student eventually mastered the concept. So I did want to share an update with the academic amnesty with you.
Any questions from Ms. Gillette concerning academic amnesty, which is a program that's intended to help students master the content and to be successful learners. Okay.
Got one question.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at D.
B?
At D.
D.
So,
Okay.
well, students eventually master the concept, concepts, we saying that we're gonna pass them automatically?
No, sir, we're giving all students an opportunity to attend summer school and a chance to be promoted to the next grade level to master those particular concepts that they did not master during the school year.
Suppose I'd rather go to the beach all summer, don't wanna attend summer school. And I was one of those students, not serious, if I wanted to do that, what would happen?
We would encourage them to come to summer school if they want to go to the next grade level.
And if I didn't,
And so
Sorry.
if you don't come, then you'll be back in the same grade. If you don't come, if you don't participate in the remediation efforts, you don't come to summer school, then you'll be back in the same grade in the fall.
Because teachers, I mean, we had the academic amnesty in place, and we really made a hard push the last couple of weeks to get those zeros made up and incomplete work and the low grades to bring them up. Teachers have been doing this all year, but they really made a push at the end of the year, and the principals were behind them, and we were behind them, pushing them to help the students, as they all have. And if they weren't able to do that, we do want to give them a chance to participate in the summer school. In the past, our summer school has been more of an enrichment program, but this year we're giving them the opportunity to take a diagnostic test at the beginning and at the end and see the amount of mastery they've made and see if they're able to move to the next grade level.
So does that answer your question, Mr. Worsham?
partially.
What's the other part of it?
All right, suppose a student over the course of the year, the time we've been able to instruct them, just decides I'm not going to do the work. And I'm sitting here thinking of some instances that I might know about.
We can encourage. We talk to the parents, we call the parents, we make home visits. You know, the students need to take responsibility in some cases as well of their work. We can't not just give them, if they're not completing the work, we can't just not let them do it and pass them to the next grade.
I just want to make sure we're just not going to piecemeal pass these kids along, just, you know, to move them along because of the code.
Yes, sir, we're making every effort for the,
Didn't have any choice, they didn't pay the last. But at the same time, now I think, you know, we've been able to offer some assignments, tests, and acquire the grades that we need to determine whether this child has mastered a concept or not. Now, if they have mastered that concept because they've not been able to get any transmissions because of where they live or whatever, we're going to make amends to make sure those students are given the opportunity to pass.
we already do.
And if they choose not to do that, then we're going to say,
Then they'll be in the same grade.
we'll see you in the next grade, and last in the grade.
Correct.
Our schools, our principals and teachers have done such an outstanding job when we had SOLs and teach people, the students that were virtual, contacting parents and asking if they wanted to come in, and we had so many did come in, and the transportation department provided free transportation to school and went out of the way to make arrangements, and we had much participation with that. So we're very proud of our schools and how they have reached out to parents and students, and especially this last big push, really, I mean, going to houses and calling emergency contacts to get hold of parents and things.
I just want to make sure we just want to pass them on.
Right, so we're presenting opportunities for learning. Thank you. I don't think we need to take action on that report. The next item is the Title I Part A and Title II Part A, Title III statewide, and Title IV Part A applications. Dr. Shannon?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Gillette is our acting fellow programs director, so she is actually going to make that presentation along with Mrs. Lorraine Green.
It's a pleasure to stand with Lorraine always. So we're going to share with you this action item, the Title I Part A, Title II Part A, Title III statewide consortium, and the Title IV Part A applications. Title I Part A funding, we have a total of $646,454.48. That does include some transferability from Title IV, Part A, which we'll discuss when we get to Title IV, Part A. This funding will provide salaries and object code 1,000 of $400,952, fringes and object code 2,000 of $124,199, and this will provide reading specialists throughout the division in the elementary schools. One at Capron, one at Nottoway, one at Meharon, and also, two at Meharon and 2 at Riverdale. Also, contracted services object code 3,000 will be $5,000, and that will be light meals, snacks, food refreshments at our DAC, our District Advisory Committee meetings, family events at schools, staff development, and technical assistance. Internal services, object code 4,000 will have $100. That is for transportation for foster care. We have object code 5,000 that will have $3,000, and that will be maintenance of plant, travel, and food, which includes travel for administration and postage for books by mail, not this summer, but of course next summer. Materials and supplies, object code 6,000, will have $68,007.44. This will include administrative, which would be paper or ink needed at the Title I office, but mostly for our classroom, which would include books, level books, phonetic readers, paper, cardstock, any kind of materials that they need, technology equipment, and also tables, chairs, stools, any kind of resources they need in the classroom. It would also have parents giving them take-home materials and resources they can use at home with their students. Have Lorraine come up.
Let's see. Title II, Part A, we have $91,149.43. That all will be in object code 1,000, and that will provide 2 class size reduction teachers, one for Riverdale Elementary School, one from Heron Elementary School. They will both be fully licensed and endorsed at time of hiring. Title III is EL students, statewide consortium, and why it's a statewide consortium is because we only get $1,146.64. Anything under $10,000 has to go into the statewide consortium, and it's run through Virginia Tech. Funding will provide materials and supplies, all in object code 6,000. For EL students, picture vocabulary cards, dual language text, level readers, parent activities, and glossaries. Title IV, Part A, that's the transferability that went into Title I that Kelly talked about earlier. We get $45,196.04 for that. That will all go into object code 1,000. It provides additional funding needed for a second reading specialist at Meharon Elementary School. There's only enough funding in Title I, Part A for one reading specialist at Meharon without the transferability. Any questions?
Any board member with questions? You need to move it.
You need a motion to approve the applications. You need a motion to approve the applications. You need a motion to approve that. So I make a motion to approve the applications.
Was that a second, Mr. Scott? They did the second. Mr. Worsham. So we have a motion by Ms. Vaughn, a second by Mr. Worsham to approve the applications as presented. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
for that. The next item on the agenda is the Children's Center lease for Fulton Elementary School. Dr. Shannon?
Yes, Southampton Public Schools School Division has leased Cortland Elementary School to the Children's Center for a number of years, and the Children's Center has asked that we continue this lease agreement, and we are going to continue the lease agreement, and it will be effective July 1st, 2021, and it will end on June 30th, 2022. The agreement may be renewed for 5 additional years upon written agreement by both parties.
And this is for the Head Start program that operates out of Fulton Elementary School. So the Children's Center runs the Head Start program at Fulton Elementary School, and they lease the building to house that program. And they have made some improvements to the building since they have been leasing it.
You need a motion?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Worsham, a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is authorization of signature in absence of Division Superintendent. Dr. Shannon?
Yes, the Virginia Department of Education requires that the superintendent designates someone to sign in their absence, and I'm recommending to the school board that Dr. Tanya Taylor continues to be the superintendent designee for Southampton County Public School Division.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Worsham. Second by Ms. Reynolds. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. For several months, probably since December or so, the Budget Committee, along with the Superintendent, together, they've been working on an employee incentive and retention plan. So Dr. Shannon is going to make a presentation on the employee incentive and retention plan.
Actually, I'm going to make a statement, and Mrs. Hicks is going to do the presentation. Mrs. Hicks, if you would come onto the podium. But while Ms. Hicks is coming to the podium, I do want to share with the school board that the Finance Committee for Southampton County Public Schools has worked extremely hard, and we worked a number of months, as Dr. Goodwood stated, to try to come up with some way of acknowledging our staff and the work that they've done during the pandemic. You know, the teachers spoke tonight about how hard they had worked during the pandemic, and there's no denying that. We agree with them wholeheartedly that they worked tirelessly, and that sometimes, you know, we didn't know what COVID-19 had to offer, but we still had our employees that were coming to work every day. And not just the teachers, but we had cafeteria workers here, bus drivers here, custodians here, administrators here, secretaries, you name it, they were on board and they showed up every day. So we are extremely proud of our staff. We do value our staff. And because of that, what we decided to do was to give a pandemic stipend to our employees for working the varied and unusual conditions. So the stipends will be in the amounts of $4,000, $2,000, or a prorated pandemic stipend based on the guidelines below. And those guidelines are, in order for you to receive a $4,000 stipend, you have to have worked full years, and that would have been 2019, 2020, and 2020, 2021. And that's because that's when the pandemic was in existence. And it doesn't matter if you are a full-time employee or if you were a part-time employee. If you worked 2019, 2020, or 2020, 2021, you had a signed contract or a written employment agreement, then based on that particular guideline, you would receive the $4,000 stipend. The second guideline is if you work the full year for this school term only. Once again, it doesn't matter if you're full-time or part-time, you will receive $2,000 as a stipend. So if you were only with us this year through the pandemic, full-time or part-time, you'll get the $2,000 stipend. And then for our substitute teachers who were and still are very valuable to us, to our temporary workers who were hired just because of COVID-19. We had temporary workers that came in to take temperatures for us every day. They help to clean every day. We even have temporary workers that are running daycare centers for us in our schools. And for those workers, we want them to know that we acknowledge what they've done for our school division and our children as well. And so we didn't leave them out. For those workers, they will be paid a stipend of $11 per day for any day that they worked during the pandemic. So we thought that this was fair for our substitutes as well. Once again, because they were here for us and we want to be here for them. Now the disclaimer to this is that everyone receiving the stipend must have been employed by Southampton County Public School Division on June the 1st of this year. So if they were employed by June the 1st of this year, then they will receive the stipend. And that's all that I have. Of course, these stipends are subject to taxes and any applicable laws or what have you. But we do appreciate our staff, and I'm just excited that our School Board Budget and Finance Committee saw fit for us to be able to use some of the CARES Act funding and some of our other funds to award our teachers. So thank you all so very much.
So that was part one. So then the part two of the employee incentive has to do with education, and education incentive plan. So tell us about that part of it.
Dr. Goodwin, Dr. Shannon, school board members, and everyone under the sound of my voice. Good afternoon. The Employee Educational Incentive Plan. Of course, we had a committee represented from each school, as well as school board members met together and to have their input and discuss the development of the plan. And the foundation of the plan, of course, is the division's visions, mission, and statement. The components of the plan. There will be 4 areas. It will be tuition and textbooks, professional certification assessments, sign-on bonuses, and referral bonuses. Tuition assistance. Southampton County School will reimburse up to half of 4 classes up to $4,000 per employee per year based on available funds. Next, the professional certification. You have 2 attempts. Administration certification, that's a test that administrators must take, will be reimbursable up to $500. Teacher certification will be reimbursable up to $250. Specialized certifications will be reimbursable up to $1,000. And they will be certifications such as your hatchbacks, your auto mechanics, or any type of CTE professional that we might need to have in the high school. Certification or license must relate to the employee's current job performance, function, or career unless pre-approved by the superintendent. You have our 10 critical shortage teacher endorsement areas in Virginia. And as you can see, these are teachers that are very varied throughout the state, difficult to employ. However, an individual certified in any one of these areas will be offered a $3,000 sign-on bonus. And an individual that does not have certification but is eligible for certifications will be offered $1,500 upon sign-on bonus. And you can see who we're talking about, the special education, elementary, pre-K, and so forth and so down the line. A few minutes to look over those areas. Next, we have the referral bonus. The amount of $500 will be issued upon hire, and then another $500 will be issued when the newly hired employee remains employed with Southampton County Public Schools for a period of 1.5 years. So that way, that will have outside resources or people here that will help us to recruit. And the eligibility, the requirements would be full-time employee, a part-time employee, or have been in the position at least 1 year. For our paraprofessionals, they must major in education. The division may make direct payment to the university on their behalf if established relationship is in place. The guidelines for reimbursement and requesting reimbursement would be: make a formal request. There's a form that is attached to it. Must receive a grade of C or better, or if it's a pass-fail, of course you have to pass the course. Submit copies of your transcript and proof of your payment, and this must be submitted no later than 6 months from course completion. Also, a survey was sent out throughout the division, and these are the individuals who actually took the survey. And we have from teachers all the way down to the car and van drivers. And the percentage was 68% of teachers completed the survey. Next on the survey was, do you currently have a degree from an accredited college or university or trade school? And the answer was yes, showing 95.2%. Then the next was, if yes, what type of degree or certificate do you hold? An associate, a bachelor's, master's, educational specialist, advanced degree, doctorate, trade certifications, and it was 38%, but the highest was 42.9%, showing a bachelor's degree. Have you taken any classes to enhance your professional skills to become better with the students that you teach or the position that you're in since July 1? And the majority said yes, 50%. This data shows that the different types of certification and degrees that they have taken: master's degrees, doctorate degrees, certification. And you see it's kind of it's all over, it's up and down with what the 42 people that responded. If Southampton County Division was able to offer reimbursement assistance for you to take a class, obtain a certification or degree, would you do so? Yes. Southampton County Public School teachers, they are very interested in this plan. Are there any questions?
Any questions for school board members? Say that again, Ms. Rome. I don't have a question. Okay, Ms. Rome. Sounds like a good idea. This is something that we really Any other comments? Again, the budget committee and the superintendent, as well as the superintendents, other people have been working on these two plans for months. So tonight was the time that they've come to some agreement in terms of what to present. Mr. Pope chaired the budget committee. So any comments, Mr. Pope? Any comments? Any comments?
We've been working on this for several years. It didn't just come up this year, but every year as we cut things off the budget, as it gets closer to the time we turn it in, this is one of the things we've always cut. And Dr. Shannon has really promoted it and wanted it. So we tried to make sure we were able to fund it this year to help our staff.
Mr. Smith, were you saying something?
I'll give those comments from Mr. Pope. We've been working very, very closely trying to say how.
And I agree. We've been at work for several months trying to get these plans in place because we understand wholeheartedly that COVID has not been an easy process deserve. You know, certainly to be able to go back and take classes, you know, to have a system to do that. We've wanted, like Mr. Pope said, we've wanted to do it for several years, never been able to get it done. And this year to be able to do it, we're excited to be able to put it into place. So it's a step in the right way.
Thank you for all of your hard work. So we do need a motion to approve the employee incentive and retention plan, and that includes the bonus as well as the information that was just shared about, that the Ms. Hicks just shared. So we have a motion by Ms. Reynolds. We have a second by Mr. Scott. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the recommendation concerning school opening and the learning modality for the 21-22 school year.
Beginning with fall of 2021-2022 school term, I recommend that all schools within Southampton County Public School Division operate on our traditional 5-day schedule. The hours for student attendance are elementary, 8:45 to 3:45, and secondary, 7:30 to 2:30. I further recommend that students attend school in person, face-to-face. This recommendation is based on the COVID-19 metrics, the number of adults vaccinated, the vaccine availability for students ages 12 and over, and the governor relaxing numerous COVID-19 restrictions. This recommendation is in alignment with our Return to Learn plan, and it is listed as phase 4 on our Return to Learn plan. Lastly, parents indicated that only 36 students are interested in virtual learning for the 2021-2022 school term, and because it's only 36 students interested, we are exploring the option of using Virtual Virginia to meet those students' needs.
Any questions for Dr. Shannon?
So with Virtual Virginia meeting those needs, that would free up the teachers that we're using now, correct?
Correct. And what would happen is our teachers would have no responsibility whatsoever if Virtual Virginia is doing it. Virtual Virginia will provide all the instruction. Now, we would have a facilitator, but the facilitator does not have to be well, if it were on site, the facilitator wouldn't have to be a certified teacher. But because parents are going to keep them at home, then our teachers won't have anything to do with it. Nothing.
Well, I guess my question is, why are they electing to keep them, I mean, why are they electing to keep them at home instead of letting everybody come back to school?
Now, that is as a school board, we can provide the option for parents to keep their kids at home. But as a school board, you all can say that you don't want that as an option, that you want everyone to come to school. And then no one will be able to keep their kids at home. But some of the parents who have elected to do so, their children do have some serious health concerns. And even pre-COVID, the children in one particular family did have health concerns. And so just for things as simple as a common cold or pneumonia, that parent was keeping her baby at home. Yeah. But that of course is not true for all of them, but you know, that is true for one particular case.
Well, is there certain criteria that they have to meet before they can either do virtual or come face to face? They just tell you that they're not going to be in school.
It's written in the law now that schools may offer in person or virtual. Well, in person in addition to virtual. And they don't have to do anything or tell us anything differently. The only thing this time is we're not going back and forth. Right. You know, this past year, there was a lot of, you know, the parent would choose, and then every 9 weeks they had an opportunity to choose something differently. But that's because we were trying to gradually reopen schools. And so we were being understanding or what have you with parents. And it was taxing on the staff, everyone. Right. But in the fall, once they make a decision to go virtual with Virtual Virginia, that's what they'll do until the end of the school term.
Okay. All right.
Additional questions for Dr. Shannon?
Just one. I guess we found out that the possibilities exist if we have a homebound student, which is totally different than what you're talking about here. That needs it for medical or other reasons. Could we offer that virtual learning through Virginia for them, or do we have to provide the teacher ourselves?
Now, I think that we have to provide the teacher for that particular student in that instance. And we do that now. We do provide that teacher.
You need a motion?
Yes.
I move that we have all students come back in September in-person learning.
So are you making a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Because the superintendent's recommendation as an option for Virtual Virginia.
That part, no, I'm not offering full. I like to leave out that part, just make all students to come back in person learning, all schools.
But Mr. Worship's motion is taking away a virtual option. That's what I was trying to be clear about. His motion is to take away the virtual option.
My problem with this Virtual Virginia is that students who could opt out for that in our school system would not get a teacher in our school system to teach them. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
And I think that's detrimental to our children because our teachers here know our children. And I think they would fare better by coming back to school with that teacher standing in front of them, delivering that instruction. Y'all heard me say this numerous times. Delivering that instruction on a daily basis as opposed to, if you tune in this afternoon at 1:30 or 2 o'clock, you can go Virtual Virginia. Or if we go Virtual Virginia, those people, poor things, are stuck with that teacher. They have no idea who it is. And we do have a problem in this county with broadband, as we all know. And that's going to be a situation where some of these students are not going to be able to get that. And I think the fair way to do it is to bring them back in person and teach them, all of them.
Well, don't you think, though, that parents should have the option?
What if the parent doesn't want the child to come back? What if the parent is saying, it's the parent who's making that decision, not us?
I still didn't hear you.
It is the parents who are saying that we do not want to send our child back to the school. So if they're saying that we do not want to send our child back, then we're still obligated to make some arrangement for that child's education.
That could be homeschooling.
No.
No, that could be homeschooling.
No, it could be, because
If they meet the criteria for homeschooling, that's a criteria you have to go through to meet.
right.
But what I'm saying is, let's bring them all back, and if they choose to do anything other than that, they have to choose homeschooling. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it should be.
And I will say that when we met about this with our school administrators, some of the school administrators did have concerns about students being home and learning virtually because, not everyone was able to thrive during virtual learning this past year. And so the administrators wanted criteria for people who chose virtual learning. And we still will end up establishing some form of criteria for the virtual learners. So it won't simply be just because a parent says, I want to do virtual, that they're going to do virtual, particularly if a kid was not successful with virtual learning. So if a child failed last year, or if a child, struggled, and teachers were constantly having to reteach and retest and, just work with the students over and over again, then it's a possibility that we're going to recommend to that parent that the child does come in person, even though the parent may want the child to be virtual. So I just wanted to share that part as well.
Well, and
Well,
I guess
that's why I asked if there was a criteria about coming, about being a virtual student. Is there something that they're gonna have to?
Is there a criteria now? No. Have we discussed the criteria? Yes. And if a certain student, if a student who was not successful in virtual learning this year, if their parent opts for them to be virtual, the principal is going to talk with that parent and let the parent know that because the child was not successful, we really would like for the child to report to school in person.
But I guess I believe that ultimately it's the parent's decision. You know, I think that once you talk to parents and you tell parents the advantages and the disadvantages, the parents, I think, ultimately know what's best for, the parent knows what's best for his or her child. So it could be a parent who says that we have, people in the household who have some kind of compromised immune system and we want to keep our children home. Why shouldn't that parent be allowed to do that? Why would we take away the choice? And also, once you tell the parent that through Virtual Virginia, especially for high school students, not every class is available. So I think if you talk to the parents and you said, these are the limited options that you have, if you choose Virtual Virginia, but if the parent still chooses that, I think that should be the parent's right to do that. I think parents should have that option. What somebody else is thinking, Mr. Scott?
I agree, you at least have to have an option for them. It should be left up to the parent to decide whether they want to send their kid back to school or not. Of course, even if the kid is not successful with virtual learning, I love the suggestion that Dr. Cherry is making, that we talk to the parent and let them know, but at the end of the day, you have to have an option for the parent. I agree.
I guess my biggest thing too is what we were talking about a while ago. Those that did not do well in virtual.
But if the parent chooses, who are we to tell a parent? I mean, if we can say your child didn't do well in virtual learning, here are the grades, these were the, the problems. The parent says, he didn't do well, but I'm keeping him home anyway. That, I don't know, I just see it as the parent's decision.
Looking at it from the standpoint of the Virtual Virginia part of it, is that your concern, or the Virtual Virginia part, or if we're going to say we're going to do virtual, we're doing it with our staff? And that part, I know we're not doing. But the comment that I want our child to have virtual anyway, and once they find out this is the only option that they have, they might have themselves because they do not want their child.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Let me tell you a couple things that.
But I think, for a rule of order, Mr. Worship had a motion that died for lack of a second. So now we're just discussing. So, did you have? Okay, so go ahead on, Mr. Smith. Oh, okay. So Mr. Worship's motion never got a second, so it died for lack of a second. So what were your comments, Mr. Worship?
I was just going to point out a couple of things when we talk about allowing children to virtually learn.
No, we're allowing parents to make the decision about how their child should learn.
Make the decision for these students to learn.
Right, we're allowing the parent who should know the child better than we know the child, or better than the teacher knows the child. So we're allowing the parent to make the decision.
I picked up on a couple of things here recently, where the parent hasn't been in the home when the virtual learning was going on, and the children went and played video games. And when the adults in the house got home, we couldn't get our transmission didn't come through the day, so we couldn't get it. That type of thing is happening. The other part that's happening is, in some cases, for some of our older kids, they're doing what commonly happens in college, understand me a lot, and they're paying somebody else to take the test for them. You can't do that.
you're not gonna be able to pay somebody to take the class for you. You know, Virtual Virginia is, you know, the Commonwealth land with certified teachers, and, you know, integrity is, you know, integrity protocol in place. So where are we?
Wait for the motion.
Make a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Ms. Bunn to accept the superintendent's recommendation concerning school opening and learning modality for the school year 21-22. Any discussion on the motion? Could we have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Denise Bond,
Yay.
Mrs. Lynn Bradley,
Yes.
Dr. Deborah Goodwin,
Yes.
Mr. James Pope III,
Yes.
Mrs. Florence Rose,
Yes.
Mrs. Donna Roundtree, Mr. Gregory Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Christopher Smith,
Yes.
Mr. William Worsham.
No.
Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the instructional report. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, Mrs. Gillette is coming back to the podium, and she will make a presentation on our instructional report. Mrs. Gillette.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So I do have the June 2021 instructional report. Our topics will be summer school, pacing guides, teacher of the year, and dates to remember. I did want to give you an update on our summer school. Right now, we have 105 elementary students signed up for summer school, and you can see those numbers. Capron has 23, 11 at Meharron, 17 at Nottoway, and 54 at Riverdale. We have 9 teachers signed up to teach summer school for elementary. For middle school, we have 107 students signed up for summer school. And we have 5 teachers signed up to teach. The high school is in the middle of registering right now, so we don't have a definite number for them. And that being said, these numbers can change as well. We'll be adding students, even if they do not have learning loss or they're not struggling, if they want to come to summer school, we're still allowing that. And everyone to have the opportunity.
Is that an increase? Are these increased number of students from last year?
From last year, yes, because last year we did it virtually, so our numbers were pretty low last year.
What about the year before?
The year before, I would say it's a little bit of a decrease. Probably around 150 for elementary, but it is an increase for our middle school. And like I said, these numbers are not final. There's just as of Friday that we have these. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but I did want to show you, we started out in April, then May, and then now, and you can see all of our SOLs are complete. Our teachers have finished the objectives. I know you have these in your packet, so but I want to see how much work they've done. So, and I do have the pleasure of announcing the Teacher of the Year for each of our elementary and secondary schools. At Capron Elementary, we have Sheila Roach. She says, I work hard to make each and every student feel welcomed, safe, and accepted while in class. It is my goal for each student to achieve his or her fullest potential. Brooke Crawford is our Teacher of the Year from Meharron Elementary. She says she works hard to make reading fun, interesting, and possible for all of our students. She believes her greatest contribution to be instilled is a love of literacy and inspiring her students to read. Rachel Dole is Teacher of the Year for Nottoway Elementary. She believes that creating a positive learning environment where students feel accepted and loved, comfortable learning and making mistakes, and excited to learn defines her as a teacher. Riverdale Elementary's Teacher of the Year is April Lane. She realizes that she plays a tremendous part in molding young minds and lives. It is fulfilling to know that she has made a contribution to society by shaping future generations and preparing those students of today for the future of tomorrow. Our Middle School Teacher of the Year is Shannon Hacker. Her mission is to continue learning as much as she can about her students and continuously let them know that although they have serious math work to do 5 days a week, that she's there no matter what, whether it be about math or anything else. And lastly, Sharon Bailey is our Teacher of the Year for the high school. He says a student should feel comfortable when they come to school to achieve greatness in the classroom. Standing out for less fortunate students and those in need is a trait he will always stand up for. Of course, our dates to remember. I will see you Friday night here at the high school at 6:30 for our high school graduation for our class of 2021. Very excited. Our 5th grade celebrations at each elementary school will all be on June 16th. Capron, Maheron, and Nottoway will be at 9:30, and Riverdale's 5th grade celebration will be at 11 o'clock a.m. They have a different location too if you're interested. Also, our kindergarten celebrations, Capron, Maheron, and Nottoway celebrated this morning at 9:30, and Riverdale will be at 9 o'clock on the 16th. Do you have any questions this evening?
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Gillette.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Southampton High School graduation. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, as Mrs. Gillette just stated, the high school graduation will be Friday, June 18th at 6:30 p.m. on our football field.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the maintenance and transportation report. Dr. Shannon.
Yes, Mr. Melby will make the maintenance and transportation report. Mr. Melby? After he makes that report, if it pleases the board, I'd like him to go directly into the DEQ report as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goodwin. All right, maintenance operation transportation report for June. All right, the end of the school year is a very difficult one for us in the transportation department. The bus driver shortage is one part of it, and then as we've gone through and had to shuffle, and Mr. Griffin has done a fantastic job to ensure all of our students are getting to and from school safely and on time. And speaking of on time, we've made adjustments over the last few months. We've seen improvement on student arrival in the morning and when they're on time for the high school and they're on time at the elementary level. Part of this is because drivers have listened to recommendations and we've changed some times. Part of it is because our ridership has evened out. We haven't had kids coming back, haven't had kids going out. We've had more consistent ridership in the last few weeks, which has really helped out in our consistency. All right, this Friday will be the last day of our door-to-door food delivery for the year. We are sending out registration now for summer food pickup. So all of our elementary schools and here at the high school, they'll be able to pick up 7-day meal boxes. And we'll talk about a little bit more of that later. We have begun the planning process for the 21-22 school year, working with Edulog. As we progress within our routing system, we'll be able to be better and to more utilize the components of the system. One of the things that they do is a more enhanced parent portal program where parents will actually be able to see where their child is in real time and know when their child is on and off the bus. Oh, there we are. Back. We're okay. All right. Yes, and going with Edulog log again, we're going to be more than prepared for the beginning of the school year. Mr. Griffin is working now in the into the routing part, so that we can, once we have that piece, then everything else is progression and succession down the line from there. We do have timelines in place, we do have benchmarks to reach, and right now we are hitting those as we go. Like I said, this is the last week of our meal delivery kits. Throughout the summer, though, we will offer 7-day meal kits for pickup at each school. We're sending out the registration for that. Pending summer school approval, both breakfast and lunch will be provided for all students at no cost. And the PEBT cards, the pandemic EBT cards that all of our students are receiving, they will be refreshed again on the 25th, and then they will have 2 more issuances, July and August as well. In the maintenance department, we got up and painted the press box in preparation for graduation. Roger actually painted the goalposts today as well. There was a little squeeze-in project there. We have been working with ABM to evaluate our HVAC system across the division. So we've talked about this before. ABM did an energy efficient study. Now we are moving into getting into our components and what really needs some help. So a couple weeks ago, they sent out a technician from Chesapeake Controls. We sat together, we talked a little bit, we went through the system, and he's able to remotely access our system. So my computer that I see in my office, I can see the guy in there moving, and it kind of freaked me out a couple times. Like, wait a minute, what's going on with my computer here? But he was going through and resetting everything, making everything go back to factory settings. That was going to help maintain the systems throughout the division. When he did that, he's also making a report of all the failures, of all the alarms, if anything's disconnected, if any of the components are offline. He'll be able to bring that into a report. And as soon as I get that report from ABM, I will share that information as well. And this work is being done at no cost to the division. ABM is taking this on completely, working through Chesapeake Controls. Our guys have been getting ready to move Fresh Start out of Hunterdale Elementary School. We'll be moving all of our furniture out, and all the items that will not be utilized will go into a storage bin, a storage trailer behind the Fresh Start Center now. This will minimize the amount of travel these items have to take. We're not going to have to take them all the way to Cortland and then bring them all the way back. Speaking of Cortland Elementary School, our crew recently cleaned out one of the classrooms there we had used for storage. It was really just a junk drawer, is all it was. So there's a bunch of chairs and old file cabinets, and we cleaned that out because they are expanding. They cleaned out one of their storage facilities there, and I believe they're adding 3 classrooms coming this fall. Was it 2 or 3? Just 2? Okay. All right, number 1 issue for us has been the chiller at Meharon. It has been the problem child. We have been going through, and every day we're monitoring it, and it's not functioning properly. So there's issues with it, and some spaces will be cooling, and then some spaces will shut down. So what we are doing now is we are collecting bids to replace that unit. The unit serving in the VOTEC on the far end has broken down, and there's a component inside, and they are examining, trying to figure out if the coil is busted or if the whole unit is busted. So AirServe and DeMuth have been here to take a look at it. DeMuth is still in the process of trying to get us back of what has actually happened in there, if it can be repaired or if it needs to be replaced. We had that unit one day of the bad storms a couple weeks ago. We thought we had a leak, but it was just that system spit out gallons of water into the egg shop. So that was the cause of that. But we did have a good storm a couple weeks ago, and in the main hallway of the VOTEC, there was a drain that was not functioning properly, and this was something that had built up over time. And around the drains in the buildings, they're insulated. And when all of this water came in during the storm, it saturated that insulation, it got to the wall and dripped down, causing a tile to be wet in the hallway. The roofing company is going to address that because it is a coupling piece. We tested the pipe is fine. It is the fitting to the roof. So it's not something we would have seen in the past because it just took time to fill up that insulation. So it was just something that came up now. We did have a leak that showed back up down the hall here. The roofing company came and they found an opening in the HVAC unit, in the bottom of the HVAC unit where there was standing water, and it was coming down the pipe. that enter the building to bring cold water in. They have sealed that up. We haven't seen any issues in that. Final one was a report of a bulging tile in the wigwam. Well, first time I went up there, I opened up expecting water, but it was a speaker. Years ago, they replaced a tile, and instead of cutting out the tile and putting the speaker in it, they just put the speaker on top of the new tile. So I thought it was an old speaker. I was up on the ladder getting ready to cut the wire to take it out, and Miss Lupton calls me over the PA. I about fell off the ladder. But we got that cut out and got it put back in, and it's good to go. Oh, I forgot to click. So sorry about that. That's ready to go. Here is a chart here. Again, the chiller at my hair. It's been on and off the school year. We're getting the bids to replace that. That should be done. It's about a 3-month process to order, build, and install. So we're going to get that going as quickly as possible. Rooftop unit failure in the wigwam, we talked about that. Trying to see if it's just a replacement issue or if it has to be, or if it's a repair issue or if it needs to be replaced. The health hall, that's been completed, and then the drain leak in the VOTEC, they are coming back tomorrow to address that for us. Now the exciting part is the upcoming projects. This Thursday morning, we'll be having a bus auction to rid ourselves of the surplus buses. Yes, finally. So we were supposed to have it last year, and then everything happened. So we'll do that at 11 o'clock Thursday morning, and that'll free up a ton of space. We've got 39 buses and 19 cars to get out of there. So we are looking forward. I know Kenny's smiling already to get all that space back there. We do have a request for proposals out on EVA right now to clean and paint the facings all around Southampton High School, Middle School, and the VOTEC. I've been taking phone calls for the last week, asking questions, so I know there's interest in the project. So I know it's going to be a very extensive project, so it's going to be fun to see what happens. The window to submit closes on this Friday. Now, bigger news, bigger project. We have secured the services of Alpha Corporation and Brian Cameron and his firm to write specifications and advertise for our request for proposal to install lights on the baseball and softball field. In addition to this project, we are added in there to retrofit the lighting systems of the tennis courts and the football field. So we'll be able to utilize the poles that are already there and utilize that infrastructure and get the new lights on the football and tennis courts. So these proposals are going to be uploaded tomorrow. We had some language things that we changed today with Mr. Camden's group. So they sent that back today, and we'll get it up on EVA tomorrow. We have a pre-proposal meeting next Wednesday out here on the baseball and softball field, and the closing date is July 9th. So we will get that rolling, and that will be complete this year. Any questions on maintenance, operations, transportation?
We voted on them last year, but I guess we can vote again. Yeah.
Yeah, the roster of buses and cars has not changed. So I did not add any onto the surplus list for this spring. Yes, sir. Oh, and I forgot, my PowerPoint had the ties on there because happy Father's Day to all the fathers coming up. So that was, a little shout out to you guys. Yes, no, Father's Day coming up, so get your daddy a tie. They all look alike. All right. So next we've got Mr. Hatch, get me to the Clean Bus Program. All right. So sponsored by the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, the Clean Bus Program has earmarked $9.25 million to aid school divisions in purchasing electric school buses. This is a little under half of what was allotted to schools in Virginia as a part of the settlement with the VW Corporation for them fibbing on their emissions quality years ago. So there will be 2 rounds of competitive grants issued here in Virginia. The first one coming up in July, and the second one later in the fall. They haven't set the dates for that yet. Schools will be eligible to receive up to $265,000 per bus and the associated charging stations that go with them. Here's a map across the state of Virginia of school divisions that have purchased school buses and have them in their fleets right now. As you can see, most of these are urban areas, and we'll kind of talk about why a little bit later. The Julie bus, that is what they called it, and it's the next step in fuel technology. There are zero emissions, quiet operations. I've been through about 4 seminars listening to what they had to say and experiencing their demonstrations. Electric cars, they make no noise. So one of the safety features that they have on it is when it comes to a bus stop, when it slows down to a certain speed, it starts making a noise to simulate a bus coming to a stop, so that the kids know that it's coming, so they know a vehicle is approaching. The vehicle performance is comparable to our conventional buses that we have now, but the issue is, and what we run into and what many other rural districts run into, is the limit on the range. 134 miles in one day is not much. When we get into our regular routes, we're looking at 50 to 60 miles for them to run their route. So to be able to run that during the day, you're pushing the limits of that bus. But they are getting better. Even just about a year ago, they were at 100-mile range. So now they are continually increasing. One of the other comparative pieces will be the cost over the life of the bus. You have no oil changes. You have less frequent brake changes. You have a lot of different components in there that you are not spending money on. Now the bus charging part, it takes roughly about 3 hours to fully charge a bus. I'll talk about one main kind of charger today, but there is also a capability with these buses that if we do have a fleet and we have an extended power outage, hurricane, other storms that knock our power out for a while, these buses can be taken to a neighborhood, and Dominion or Community Electric can plug our buses back into the grid and put power back into a community. So that is one capability of these electric buses. When it comes to warranty pieces, the battery itself is going to deteriorate over time. It's going to be not able to take as good of a charge over years as it did when it was brand new. I know we've all used rechargeable batteries, and by the time they get a couple of months in, they get about 30 minutes and they're done. Same kind of thing with the degradation of a battery in a bus. And their standard warranty is 8 years on the battery. The powertrain is 5 years. Working with the associate from Sunny Merriman, we talked to him, and they've developed a 10-year warranty, because one of the caveats with these buses is they must be on our fleet, must be on the road for 10 years for us to maintain the grant. If we take them out of service, if we take them off the road, we got to pay that $265,000 back. So to maintain that bus for the full 10 years, we will add on the warranty to make sure that they are performing the way they should. Here is a sample of their charging station for a 4-bus charging station. Now, these buses, they don't charge simultaneously. If you hook up all 4 buses to one station, they start at bus 1 and move their way down, and it takes about 3 hours to get each bus charged. So to do 4 buses will take 12 hours. So each one of these will charge 1 bus in 3 hours, and then it'll move itself down. So with the money aspect of this, yes, these buses are very expensive on the front end. Like it shows here, you're looking at roughly $340,000 for the bus. To add in the options that we normally would have, to add in the extended warranty, you're looking closer to $400,000 per bus. Now, we would get up to $265,000 between the difference of that bus and our baseline bus back, and you're going to exceed that $265,000. So you get that back, but that does not include the money that it would cost to install the charging station. That cost from Dominion, that cost from Community is in addition to this. Now, we can look at these things when we get going a little bit further down the line, but the difference in cost over the lifetime is roughly going to save $100,000 per bus because of all those components that are not necessary to replace. So there is that cost benefit to it as well. At this time, we are completing the application. It's due July 25th. There are components that we have to put into a chart for them. They will grade buses because this is a competitive grant, because it is really it is a small amount of money to try and replace the diesel and propane buses here in Virginia. So it is a very competitive grant. So what they take into consideration is the age of the bus, the number of miles that it runs during the school year, and then the number of free and reduced lunch students that it serves during the school year. So they put all those together, and then they score the buses out, and then they award the grants that way. If we are awarded the grant, we are not obligated to do any purchasing at this time. So even if, when we finish our application and after we get and we do all of our research and make all of our decisions, we don't think that it's a good fit for us, we are not at fault for any monies. We are not tied to this grant. It is a complete optional grant for us once we receive it. Like I said, we're evaluating the additional cost and the difference that's covered by the grant. Like I said, the onset cost for this, it is big. But seeing the savings down the line, it balances out. And as we know, it's a great program with the electric, as our society is moving that way, our Ford Motor Company and GM and Chevy, all of these big companies are making that move towards the electric vehicles. This is a small step for us and for Southampton County to do that. We'd have to look at the installation of the charging stations, changing the practice that we have of bus drivers taking the buses home with them, and how the feasibility of the vehicle here in Southampton would actually work. With that limited range, we're going to have to figure out a way to work with that. We do have some bus routes that do run close to Cortland here, that run to Riverdale, that run to Capron, that may work with this. But when you get into the far stretches of Meharry and Nottoway kids, going from Ivor down to Southampton High School, or from Branchville to Southampton High School, that's pushing it for us. So the amount that they can do is going to increase over the years, but this will give us a start. This will give us a understanding as we get going on the electric school bus. Now, I believe that our fleet will be looked favorably upon because of the age of some of our buses and the amount. We do run a lot of miles on all of our buses. So being the size that we are, I think would be very favorable to be chosen for parts of this grant. There's also a possibility of additional funding to assist with the charging station installation, and there also will be another cycle of grants, like I said, coming up in the fall. They haven't given a specific date yet, but these will be, like I said, this closes June 25th. They'll be awarded in July, and then another round will go out in the fall. I know that's a lot of information, and I'm sorry. Any questions?
I'm excited that we're competing for this grant.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely.
Glad to see we're competing for it. Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Yes, ma'am. I think I'm just hanging out.
Hang out.
Miss Bradley, I'm not able to go plan my Hawaii trip here. She shot me a look when he said that. All right, tonight I'm going to present to you our interest survey for the virtual academy for the 21-22 school year. We did have 36 total students to express interest in the virtual academy coming up for the next school year. It was at least one for every grade level. Seniors had the most with 7, and then sixth graders, rising sixth graders with 5. So it broke down this way for the schools, with the secondary schools having more than half of all of the students interested. And I'm sorry, my 3 got cut off, so it's 36 total students on there. But you can see them spread out on the other elementary schools, except for Nottoway having nobody interested in running virtual. And this was a very quick survey. It was about 10 days that it was out there as a straight interest survey. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, please continue.
Yes, ma'am. All right, the last thing on my list, Mr. Hatch. All right, was our vaccine interest survey results. This was as of Friday night at 7 p.m. We had 45 total registrations, on our vaccine link, there was 37 eligible students. The other 8 were not going to be turning 12 before September, so I did not count them in this count. Because the student must be at least 12 years of age to receive the vaccine. Of the 37, 17 of them were here at Southampton High School, 18 at the middle school, 1 at Maharan Elementary School, and then 1 student who is currently enrolled in college. So the age range of students that were registered was between 12 and 19. And again, this would be a partnership with the Virginia Department of Health and the Western Tidewater Health District. Any questions?
Any questions?
I do want to add with the vaccine interest survey, the vaccine will actually get administered on a weekend or an evening, and parents will have to bring their children to have them vaccinated. So the school division is just serving as a host site for Rite Aid or whomever else, the Western Tidewater Health District, decide to work with us.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Mr. Bailey, I appreciate it.
I want us to think about, the next item is mine, the bus drivers' participation in the Virginia retirement system. Like many school divisions, Southampton County has a bus driver shortage. So we, as a board, have been talking about incentives or things that we could possibly do to make serving as a bus driver more attractive. And we thought that perhaps if bus drivers could get retirement benefits, that might be an incentive for some people. Because right now, Southampton, our school division does participate in the Virginia retirement system, but right now you have to work at least 35 hours a week in order to qualify to participate in VRS. So what I was hoping is that we could look into the feasibility of having some bus drivers participate in the Virginia retirement system. I know that some other districts are doing it. I don't know how it works, but I was thinking that we had the superintendent do a feasibility study to see if it's feasible for us to have to have bus drivers participate in the Virginia retirement system. I do know, and when I talk about feasibility, how much would it cost the system? Because with the Virginia retirement system, of course, the employee would have to put in 5%, but then there's another formula that determines how much the district has to pay. And we don't even know how many bus drivers will be interested or, just how it would go. But I was hoping that the board would agree that the superintendent can do just a feasibility study to see if it's possible for us to do it. What's your thinking about it? Okay. So anybody disagree? So then, Dr. Shannon, would you look into the feasibility of having bus drivers participate in the Virginia retirement system and perhaps give us a report at our August meeting in terms of how it's going and the cost, because it could be something that we can't afford. It could be something bus drivers are interested in doing. I don't know. Thank you. The other item that I wanted to call your attention to, so the next item is the restrooms, locker rooms, access for transgender students. That you know that the 2020 General Assembly enacted Virginia Code 22.1-23.3, which requires school divisions to enact policies that are consistent with the Virginia Department of Education's model policies for the treatment of transgender students in public elementary and secondary schools. We have to have our policies in place by the start of the 21-22 school year. Now, hopefully you paid attention to the VSBA policy page that came out in May that had a list of the policies that are affected by this legislation. If not, Ms. Artis has printed a hard copy for you so that you can look at the number of policies that we have to revise so that it has the language that's consistent with this legislation. Because the legislation had the Virginia Department of Education look at transgender rights in like 8 different categories. So then we have to look at policies in several different areas. So what I'd like for you to do is just to read this, because at our meeting next month, the superintendent will give us draft policies. Thank you. The superintendent will give us draft policies, and that will be our first reading. And then we will be able to have a second reading in August, so that we'll have our policies in place before the start of the 21-22 school year. So this is just for you to read, so that next month you'll be ready to look at, have the first reading of these policies that will be affected by this Virginia code, because we do want to be in compliance. Okay? So the next item on the agenda is the student enrollment report and the student-teacher attendance. Dr. Shannon?
Thank you. So Southampton County Public School Division, for the month of May, we had 2,590 as our projected number, 2,485 students enrolled. And with the inclusion of our preschool students and our special education preschool students, we had 2,618 students. And looking at our student and teacher attendance report, Riverdale is the winner for our student attendance, and that's with an attendance rate of 99.52%. And Nottoway is the winner for teacher attendance, and that's with 95.80%. So congratulations to Nottoway and Riverdale for the work that they've done.
Thank you. And the matters from the Appomattox Regional Government School, and you have included in your board packet the June 11th letter from Appomattox Regional Government School indicating that they will be operating in a face-to-face mode in the fall, that all instruction will be offered face-to-face. And then students who have who asked to participate virtually, basically the home says that the gifted coordinator in the school's home district, as well as the counselor at the Appomattox School, as well as administration, they'll get together and come up with a plan for students who for some reason said they can't attend face-to-face. But in our discussion, what it really came down to is that students who cannot go to Appomattox Regional Government School face-to-face, they're going to send them back to the home school and just say they can't participate. But they'll say it perhaps in a more pleasant way. And then I wanted you to see the calendar for the Appomattox Regional Government School, because I want you to note that they're starting before Labor Day. So their calendar for 21-22 is, different from our calendar here at in Southampton County. So you can see that school for those students will start August 16th. So they're going back before Labor Day. But Dr. Shannon has assured me that Mr. Melby and Mr. Griffin will make sure that our students get there when they're supposed to. Appomattox is starting before Labor Day this year. And that's because they wanted students to take their exams before Christmas, to have first semester in before the Christmas holiday. So those were the notes from that. The next item on the agenda is pursuant to section 2.2-3711A1 and 2 of Tradition Freedom of Information Act. The board, upon a motion and a second, will convene in a closed session to consider personnel appointments, resignations, retirements, and stipends. We'll also consider student admissions, and we'll also consider a legal briefing. At the conclusion of the closed meeting, the board will reconvene back in this area to continue our open meeting. So do we have a motion to adjourn to convene a closed session? So we have a motion by Ms. Bradley, a second by Mr. Worsham. So we'll have our closed session in the library, and at the end of our closed session, we'll come back here to conclude our meeting. So I will see everybody in the library in a few minutes.